Good morning. My name is Ben Weber. I'm the District 6 City Councilor, and I am the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Labor, Workforce, and Economic Development. Today is July 24th, 2024. This hearing is being recorded. It is also being live streamed. Is it actually being live streamed?
Yes.
Okay, we're having no technical issues. At boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcasts on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, Files Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.labor@boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. Individuals will be called in the order in which they signed up and will have 2 minutes to testify. Anyone who's here who wants to sign up, I think the sign-in sheets are over there. If you're interested in testifying in person, add your name to the sign-in sheet. If you're looking to testify virtually, please email our central staff liaison, Cora Montrond, at Cora, that's C-O-R-A .Montrond, MONTROND @boston.gov, or the link and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket number 1053, which is for an order for a hearing to discuss protections for workers during extreme heat. This matter was sponsored by myself and Councilor Enrique Pepin, who is here alongside me. Today I am joined by Councilor Pepin, Councilor Aaron Murphy, and Councilor Ed Flynn. I would just, as the lead filer, I'm going to make a short statement, and I'll open up to my colleagues if they want to say something, and then we will get to the panel. So I assume all of us at one point or another have overheated, either on a run on a hot day without enough water, on a subway train where the air conditioner wasn't working, or just playing outside with our kids. At the end of the run, you can jump in a cold shower, you get off the train and head home, or take your kids to the ice cream place to get out of the sun. Now, imagine that you overheat at work. Worse yet, imagine enduring heat is part of your job. You're an iron worker or a carpenter working on new construction outside. You clean airplanes where they deliberately keep the air conditioning off while you are in the plane, or you're a city employee fixing a sidewalk to make it ADA compliant. You can't just leave work and hop in the shower. You can't take off heavy protective clothing because you might be seriously hurt. You can't even head down to the store for a bottle of water. And you can't tell your boss you're feeling nauseous or suffering from heat stroke for fear of losing your job. We're here to talk about protections for workers from heat-related injuries and illness. According to OSHA, occupational heat exposure affects millions of workers in the United States. Each year, thousands of workers experience heat-related injuries and illness, and some of these cases result in fatalities. From 1992 to 2022, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics recorded an average of 34 fatalities a year during that period, but that number is only expected to rise with worsening heat. Much more common than death, workers experience heat stroke, heat exhaustion, fainting, and physical injuries such as falls due to the fatigue that they experience from the heat. Excessive heat exacerbates existing health conditions like asthma, diabetes, kidney failure, and heart disease, and can cause heat stroke and death if not treated properly. Some groups are likely to experience even more adverse effects from heat, such as pregnant workers, and low-wage workers are often more exposed to hazardous conditions in their work. You will hear today that, unbelievably, there are no federal rules currently in place specifically for protecting workers from the heat. And like all but 5 states, Massachusetts has no protections in place either. Massachusetts, according to data since 1970, Massachusetts is the third, it is heating up at the 3rd highest rate in the country. We should not wait for a disaster to protect our workers from the heat. Our mayor has made climate change and climate resiliency one of the cornerstones of her administration, making sure that we have protections from the heat for our workers is a part of that, and I look forward to working with my colleagues and with the mayor's office and hopefully with the state to make sure that workers in Boston and across the Commonwealth can be protected, from climate change. So now I'll call on Councilor Pepin if you have a statement.
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here on the panel, and to the audience for being here as well. For the record, my name is Enrique Pepin. I represent District 5. And I'm just, thankful to Councilor Weber for adding me as a co-sponsor to this hearing order because, I think Councilor Weber said it perfectly. The weather conditions in Boston the temperatures are increasing. Global warming is obviously here with us. And as we continue to try to be a Green New Deal city, we still have to take measures to make sure that our workers are protected. Every morning I see our amazing Public Works Hokies out cleaning our streets, seeing our BTD employees paving our roads. I see our Public Works employees taking care of our buildings. And I just think on a day that is over 90 degrees, are they okay? Are they taken care of? Are we taking every measure possible to make sure that as we are indoors, we are okay? Are they okay outdoors? And I'm part of this hearing because I want to make sure that everyone in every single workforce in the city of Boston is protected. So I'm very much looking forward to this conversation to make sure that Boston is leading the way here in the Northeast. Obviously, we're not used to extreme heat, but it's coming. Today's not a good example of that, but I'm just very thankful for being part of this conversation. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Councilor Pepin. I just want to know we've been joined by Councilor Liz Braden. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for holding this hearing. Thank you to the panelists. There's common sense, and there are many kind, fair employers out there, but we're not here to talk about that, right? We're here to advocate for those employees who find themselves in situations where they're forced to work through conditions, and there's extremes, right? There's extreme cold, there's extreme heat. My dad was a laborer, so knew from growing up all those times during the summer that the summer was worse. Many people who don't work outside think that it's the winter and the cold, but you can always put on a hat, add another sweatshirt. But when the heat is at the levels that we've seen this summer alone, even for myself, I wasn't doing anything strenuous, but even though by the second, third day, it was oppressive, right? So knowing that we have, trash collectors, mail carriers, but also, people who are doing very strenuous work in the labor union, we have to make sure that we're protecting them. A few things I hope that we highlight at this hearing. I know last June we signed off on the construction safety ordinance, and that was exciting, but does it specifically speak to heat, right? To make sure that that's written in the ordinance that we did sign off here on the city. And just some of the statistics, which I think we'll touch on, but the Bureau of Labor Stats, they tallied over 436 work-related deaths caused by heat exposure from 2011 to 21. And there's nothing directly protecting workers against their employers forcing them, right? So how do we protect workers who feel, and it's been mentioned before and probably will again, but the fear that if you need to take a break, if the water isn't enough, and at some point we all know that medically heat exhaustion or a stroke goes past just hydrating, right? You need more intervention. So how do we make sure, and does the city, right? I think it's important for us on the council to leave this hearing knowing, do we have protections in place for all of our workers who find themselves, teachers in hot classrooms who show us pictures of temperatures, over, 85, 90 degrees in a classroom. And, it's been mentioned too, the outside public works employers. So here to advocate and make sure that when we leave here, we have a plan on how to support and protect not just our city workers, but anyone who comes into the city. We should make sure that there's safety in place. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the makers for bringing this important discussion forward. Thank you to the panelists for the important work you are doing and for the testimony as well for the public and other city employees that may want to respond to this important discussion. We know the important work our city workers do every day. They're in our neighborhoods, they're cleaning the streets, they're cleaning our parks, they're helping the elderly, and we want to try to provide the best services for them as well. I know something a little about this issue. I served overseas and consistently served in an area that was 130 degrees. And I know how difficult it is to work in an environment that's extremely hazardous at times. Looking forward to hearing from the panelists. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn, and I think we'll hear a little bit. I know OSHA looks to the U.S. military, which has developed actually, heat protection standards for people so they don't suffer heat stroke, and I think it can help guide us. Councillor Braden, do you have an opening?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to everyone who's here this morning. This is an incredibly important issue as we face this increasing frequency of very, very hot days. I think we've had more 90-degree days plus in this so far this summer than we had all of last summer. So this is our new reality. We know that we have an issue with the Faneuil Branch Library, a brand new library that's just refurbished library. The AC went down this week. It was over 85 degrees, and the libraries had to close. So not only is it a question of just adequate support for workers in the field doing the work, but also making sure that our HVAC systems and all are adequately working and well maintained, and also thinking about how we address our heat island effect in the neighbourhood. I think it's a multi-departmental approach, but I know we're very focused on the experience of workers. But I know Chelsea has been doing things to try and decrease the radiant heat of roadways by painting them white or lighter colours so they don't absorb so much heat. There's lots of different ways that we have to go at this in many different ways, but I really appreciate that we're focused on the day-to-day work experience of workers at their job sites. But I think it's hugely important and very, very current, and will continue to be important over the years ahead. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Councillor Braden. I think that brings up a good point about how this impacts workers who are outside and workers who are inside. I think, some people will be surprised to see how everyone from iron workers to teachers deal with this issue, and how we need to address it. So I'd just like to introduce the panel, and then we can hear some statements. Let me make sure. So we have, I'll start from my left to right. We've got Zoe Davis, the Climate Resilience Project Manager for the City of Boston's Environment Department. I have that right? And then we have Jody Sugarman Brazen, who's the Deputy Chief of Worker Empowerment for the City of Boston. We're joined by Amy Bott, who is the OSHA Boston Regional Office's Assistant Regional Administrator. So any questions about the federal government, is it Ami? Ami
yeah.
Bott. And we're joined by Cora Roloffs from Occupational Safety and Health Research Scientist from UMass Lowell. Do I have that right? And we're joined by Leon Bethune, right? Director of Community Initiatives Bureau and Acting Director of the Office of Public Health Preparedness. He's from the Boston Public Health Commission, so all of our science questions and sort of heat stroke questions he can answer. We're also joined online by Terry Gerstein. Terry is the director of the NYU Wagner Labor Initiative. She's a former Labor Bureau Chief of the New York State's Attorney General's Office and Deputy Commissioner for the New York State Department of Labor. I think Terry is an advocate who can talk to us about what's going on across the nation. So I don't know, Terry Gerstein, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was, if you have a presentation, I think it might help for us to start with that.
Great. Okay, is the screen sharing?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm Terry Gerstein. I direct the NYU Wagner Labor Initiative, and the NYU Wagner Labor Initiative works on trying to help state and local government serve working people and use its power to enforce workers' rights and to advance workers' rights in a range of ways. So what I'm going to talk about today is just give a little bit of the national context as you consider what you might do in Boston. First, some general framing of the overall picture. As you all probably know, OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, enforces workplace safety and health nationwide and is the federal agency responsible for this. OSHA does not currently have an existing rule on workplace heat. OSHA has the General Duty Clause, and the General Duty Clause requires employers to provide a workplace that is free from recognized hazards, and employers can be cited for that, but it's not very specific. And OSHA has used it occasionally for workplace heat, but it's not very specific and not really useful in terms of preventing and in a systematic way addressing the kinds of issues that we've already heard people talk about. The OSHA has proposed a rule on workplace heat. It has many really essential protections that employers have to have a plan ahead of time, that employers have to provide the basics, which are water, rest, and shade, that employers have to have a plan if there's a medical emergency, and they have to train workers, and the other important piece is gradual acclimatization. So there's a lot more to it than that, but those are the basics. So you might think, well, if OSHA's proposed a rule, why do we need to do anything at the local level? But it's important to recognize that it takes time, significant time, for an OSHA rule to be enacted and to survive any legal challenge. Right now, that rule is in the comment period. And I recommend that anyone submit comments. I think it's a good way for people to have input, but that does take time. Then the agency reviews and incorporates those comments. Then ultimately, after that, there's a new rule issued. And of course, if there's a new federal administration, it's, calls into question what the direction will be on this. After that, once the final rule is released, there will likely be a challenge by business groups, probably in a Texas federal court, and ultimately the issue may land before the U.S. Supreme Court, which has generally shown itself to be pretty hostile to the federal administrative state and to worker interests. But even in a best case scenario, it's a few years probably before the OSHA final heat rule is effective. And so that calls for action at the state or local level as soon as possible, given the current heat conditions, to be able to keep people safe and save lives. You may wonder, what is the possibility of local action in terms of OSHA preemption? The key point here is that if there's no OSHA standard, there's no preemption. So as long as there's not an OSHA standard on heat, which there currently is not, there's no preemption of state or local action. Even if there is an OSHA standard, I would note as well that there's an exception to preemption if the state or local rule or action protects the general public and protecting the workers is just incidental. One example of that is New York City's crane law was ruled not preempted by OSHA because it protects pedestrians and the general public and not just the workers. So that exception, even if there ultimately several years from now is an OSHA standard, that exception may come into play with whatever happens in Boston, depending on how it's structured. Some states have passed laws on workplace heat. There's only 5. I have them listed here in alphabetical order, but I will describe them in order of excellence. In Oregon, which I note first, there is an indoor and outdoor heat standard. And as we've heard some of the council members mention, indoor heat is very much a critical issue for workers in many, many different settings. So Oregon California has an outdoor standard and an indoor was recently proposed. And the other three, Colorado, it covers agriculture only, Minnesota indoor only, and Washington outdoor only. But it's only 5 states out of the 50 plus DC. Worse still, Florida and Texas have blocked localities from taking action on this issue. In Florida, Miami-Dade County was looking to pass rules regarding heat and had some discussions of it. And Florida passed a law specifically barring localities from passing laws about workplace heat, including laws regulating what their contractors can do. So aside from the question of just regulating private employers, the Florida law prohibits localities from setting conditions for their own contractors, government contractors. In Texas, there was a law that people have described as the Death Star bill, the Death Star law, that basically prohibits localities from taking any action on any workplace matter, including matters related to workplace heat. Part of the prompt for that was that several localities passed laws requiring water breaks for construction workers. So Texas and Florida are examples of, just a completely barbaric approach to this, of not taking action themselves and blocking localities from taking action. There is one locality that has passed a local law on workplace heat, and that is Phoenix. Phoenix passed a law requiring heat protections for outdoor workers who work for city contractors and subcontractors. So it doesn't apply to the general public, but to city contractors and subcontractors, and it has the same basic elements I described before: a written safety plan, water breaks, shade or air conditioning, gradual acclimatization, and training. In terms of other local laws on workplace heat, this slide being blank is not a mistake, because there are no other local laws on workplace heat. And so this is really an opportunity for Boston to be a national leader on this issue, and to really set the tone and set the bar, and affect the national protect the workers in Boston and the thousands of workers or hundreds of thousands of workers who need this protection, and also to have a big impact on the national picture. I wrote a guest essay for the New York Times recently on the need for action, outlining much of what I have just said, as well as some actions that government can take even without laws. And this includes really a great need for public education. As temperatures rise, there's more dangers. Often when I talk about public education and outreach, I come from an enforcement perspective and it feels a little soft. But here I think it really, really is critical, because many people, employers and workers, don't know the dangers of workplace heat. It just doesn't viscerally resonate as dangerous the way that frigid weather does, for example. People sometimes feel like, well, it's the summer, it's hot, get used to it. But it's hotter than it used to be, and it is extremely dangerous. A couple of final observations. One, my main final observation is that the basic protections for heat that are needed to be mandated for employers, they're not overly burdensome. They would actually fit on a 3x5 note card. They're basically common sense measures that every parent who has taken kids to the beach on a hot day knows. You have to have a plan ahead of time on how to deal with the heat. You need rest, water, shade, gradual acclimatization. You can't go from 0 to 60, and you need to be able to recognize the danger signs. So that is what I have to say today, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about this important matter.
Thank you very much. I know you have a time constraint, Terry, is that right?
Yes, I have to leave at the end of the hour.
Okay, so in about 18 minutes, is that, I guess, if if anyone has, I can go around if anyone has a question for Professor Gerstein. I had one. We've also been joined by Councillor Henry Santana. We're just starting with the panel, but I had one question I guess for you, Ms. Gerstein, which just in light of the ruling, the Supreme Court ruling and the was it Loper Bright Enterprises that got rid of Chevron deference, would that impact how a court looks at the OSHA's proposed rule?
I think that the decline of Chevron, the demise of Chevron deference, means that courts will not be deferring to administrative agencies. I think that OSHA has the authority to pass this rule. I think that OSHA, has done a tremendous job at building the evidence and the record of what's needed for the rule. The rule is very feasible and realistic. I think it should be upheld, but we all know that the federal courts and the Supreme Court in particular has a very, the six-person majority is very, very hostile to the administrative state and to worker protections. And so even though I think that case does create even one more possible risk for the federal rule and calls for more action at the state and local level on workplace heat and other kinds of workplace matters as well, because the demise of Chevron deference at the federal level does not necessarily, depending upon a given state's laws, doesn't necessarily mean that deference ends at the state level, and the expertise of state and local agencies, depending on the law of a given state, might still receive the deference that federal agencies used to.
Okay, yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with that. I do know, I think it was a court in Texas struck down a DOL they were trying to increase the salary threshold for overtime, being exempt from overtime rules, for being found to be a white-collar worker, whereas before, something like if you were making less than $30,000 a year, $35,000 a year, if you were making at least at 35, you could still be found to be a white-collar worker, but just trying to raise that to 50, it got struck down by a court. I imagine. Have there been OSHA rules that have been struck down? Maybe that's a question for Ms. Bott. But.
Yeah. I could just answer very quickly that, for example, the COVID emergency, the temporary standard related to COVID for workplace safety was struck down. And right now, another rule, not by OSHA, but by the Federal Trade Commission, the rule banning non-competes is being litigated. A federal court did uphold it. A federal court in Pennsylvania did uphold it in the past week or so. But I do think that both the major questions doctrine case in the Supreme Court, which, constrained what kinds of issues federal agencies have the authority to address without explicit, congressional approval mandates, the major questions doctrine, and then the demise of Chevron really puts, and more than anything, the composition of the Supreme Court makes it a lot harder to assess how. I can assess what I think the analysis of the laws, and I'm sure all of you can as well, but I think it makes it a lot harder to assess the ultimate viability of a lot of federal action on worker and many other issues unless we have Supreme Court reform.
Okay, I just one last. Any questions for Ms. Gerstein? No. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. I appreciate it, and thank you for your time and willingness to appear, virtually. But we'll let you go. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. And then, so turning to the panel, I believe we can start going from left to right. Ms. Davis, just again, anyone who's watching is the Climate Resilience Project Manager for the City of Boston's Environment Department. That's now to you.
Awesome, thank you. I think are we still waiting for slides to show?
I don't know.
Anything I need to press?
We're
Oh, I
working
think,
on that.
okay, here we are, awesome. Okay, I'm going to share some context around extreme heat in Boston and some of the city's ongoing heat resilience initiatives. So in 2022, the City of Boston released Boston's Heat Plan. This is a citywide framework for preparing for the impacts of hotter and longer summers due to climate change. The plan built on the initial foundation of our understanding of climate-driven heat through Climate Ready Boston. I'll just give some context around future projections for us. From the plan, the climate projections show that we could be seeing up to around 60 days over 90 degrees Fahrenheit in the next 50 years. And just for context, today in Boston, and this is over the last decade or so, Boston has experienced around 10 to 12 extreme heat days. So this is 90 degree days. And then additionally, we could see about 130 days over 80 degrees Fahrenheit in the next 50 years as well. And for additional context here, a typical meteorological summer is about 90 days, a little over 90 days. So this is just to point out that chronic heat and higher averages overall are also really important to consider. And so as a part of the heat plan, we've identified these 26 strategies to increase access to cooling resources as well as to reduce localized temperatures. And the 26 strategies are actually nested in these 8 layers or these 8 categories that you see here. Specifically, the third category, looking out for neighbors, there are recommendations about how the city can implement heat resilience provisions for the workplace. So one, exploring opportunities to develop local guidelines, plans, best practices, and policies for outdoor employment on heat days, high heat days. 2, sharing resources with employers and employees to increase awareness of workplace safety. And 3, providing employees and employers with best practice information for extreme heat. And then 4, engaging with the state to help inform state-level policy on guiding outdoor work and excessive heat days.
Should I jump right in?
Yes, yeah, Jody, great.
So, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Jody Sugarman-Brozan. I'm a deputy chief in the Worker Empowerment Cabinet and lead the Office of Labor Compliance and Worker Protections. And really happy to be presenting today with my colleagues and to give some context, which has already been given by Professor Gerstein and I'm sure, and Councillor Weber, and you will probably hear from many of the panelists that heat is a workplace hazard. Heat is the most deadly natural hazard. The data is showing more so than tornadoes, hurricanes, all of that. And it particularly is a hazard at work. The data I have here from 1992 to 2002, almost 1,000 workers across all sectors have died. That's about 34 a year. And again, likely an undercount is many of the times that workers die as a result of heat-related illness. It can look like other things. In the same time, 334 construction workers, so about 1/3 of those who have died were construction workers. And this is keeping the theme where construction is really the most deadly of all occupations, and that's true across many different health and safety issues, but it is also true here when we're looking at heat as a workplace hazard. And Black and brown workers are disproportionately represented among the heat-related deaths. And the data here shows that Black construction workers were on average 51% more likely to die from heat, and Mexican-born workers were 91% more likely to die. So again, setting the context about the hazard. And employers have a responsibility to keep their workers safe. We've heard from Professor Gerstein about the general duty clause, but there is increasing consensus that we need more rules in place to protect workers from this emerging hazard. There's a proposed rule put out by OSHA now, which hopefully we will see become a reality within the next couple of years. In the meantime, the general duty clause does provide some protections. And I wanted to start and say a little bit about how we in our office have been involved in helping to protect workers, and particularly this summer. And I wanted to start with some context, and I think, thank you, Councilor Murphy, for talking about our new construction and demolition safety ordinance, because we're really learning from the implementation of that ordinance on what works well in terms of bringing health and safety training and resources out to contractors. And, you know, you can see we passed the first ever municipal construction and demolition safety ordinance. Thank you to the folks in this room for making that happen. The Inspectional Services Department enforces that, but we at the Office of Labor Compliance and Worker Protection provide a lot of resources and health and safety training. In the last year, we reached 1,200 contractors and employers with information about the new law. We provided free OSHA 30 training, 5, including one in Spanish, that sold out within 2 hours of posting the training. We provided OSHA 10 training also, as well as a whole series of trainings on how to do a hazard assessment and create a site safety plan. People and contractors were extremely interested. We had a lot of support for these trainings. We also held a number of workers' rights clinics with local worker centers, which were also very successful. So we're taking and learning from the implementation of that law on how we can bring information about health and safety in high heat trainings. It's actually over here, right? Here we go. Oh, sorry, I got it. So what did we do this summer? We partnered again with the Inspectional Services Department, and the Inspectional Services Department has an email list of 28,000 permitted contractors. So we prepared resources that were put together by OSHA and the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences on how to protect workers from heat and how to create a heat illness prevention plan, and we sent that out to all the people on the 28,000 permitted contractors list. We also offered webinars for workers and their employers to learn more about that. We're providing the same training and webinars that we're doing for all of our permitted contractors, all of our City of Boston departments, and we are exploring the possibility of an ordinance to protect outdoor workers. So we're really happy to be here today to talk about this. And the next few slides are actually slides that are specifically part of our heat illness prevention training. And the signs and symptoms of heat illness, the one thing about heat illness prevention is that training is a very core central piece of this. And that's because understanding the signs and symptoms of heat illness is very important for employers and workers, because things can go from heat exhaustion to much more dangerous heat stroke very quickly. So we always start by what are the signs and symptoms of heat illness, and how do they escalate? What are some of the first aid to get people out of the heat and stop the progression of the symptoms? We talk a lot about how we then control the hazards, and if folks have, I think probably you'll hear more about this from our occupational health and safety expert on the panel, but the hierarchy of controls is a very key tool for occupational health and safety training and support, and how to control hazards on a work site. When it comes to heat, obviously we cannot eliminate the heat unless we're putting people in air conditioning spaces. So we look really at engineering controls, reducing exposure, using air conditioning and barriers, but also administrative controls are very effective here, changing the hours and work times that people work during the day, ensuring regular work breaks, and other kinds of ways to set up the workday that prevent people from being in the heat, and also creating opportunities for people to rotate even some of the heavier work, so you're not always doing the heavier work. And obviously personal protective equipment, and you'll see that's the least effective of controls, but it is an important piece here as well. Water, rest, and shade is always the most important thing. And again, you'll probably hear more about this, but the amount of water that people need, the amount of rest that people need, and the amount of shade that people need becomes more on the higher the temperatures and the higher the heat index. So that goes back to changing the way that people work and ensuring that we're providing regular rest breaks at a more frequent time, or more frequently as heat gets higher and higher, and cool water and shade that is a place where people can take those breaks outside, away from the sun. And again, one of the key pieces that we talk about is a heat illness prevention plan that incorporates all of this. So encouraging employers to create a plan that has procedures for sufficient water, procedures for providing shade, high heat procedures when things get very hot, what are the changes we're making to the work schedule. A buddy system can be extremely effective in watching workers to ensure that your partner is not showing the signs and symptoms of heat illness. Emergency procedures, acclimatization, and effective communication, talking to workers, and monitoring weather, and of course training, and the training, who should be trained, as all of the workers, employers, competent persons on the job, and then the slide lists all the different things that should be part of the training. And training is obviously a really important part of any heat illness prevention plan. In our construction and safety demolition ordinance, we require training about the site safety plans on site in the language that workers understand. We'd encourage that that would be part of any heat illness prevention plan training as well. And that is my presentation, and I can pass it on to,
Ami Bhatt, yeah.
Great. Okay, so just to reintroduce myself, my name is Ami Bhatt, and I work with the U.S. Department of Labor, OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, in the Boston Regional Office. My title is Assistant Regional Administrator for Enforcement Programs, so I provide enforcement support to all of our OSHA area offices in the New England region. I would like to thank Councilor Weber and the other committee members for the opportunity to share what OSHA has been doing to address worker exposure to extreme heat and protecting them from potential heat-related illnesses. So as I think everyone's aware, that OSHA's mission is to assure America's workers have safe and healthful working conditions free from unlawful retaliation. OSHA carries out its mission by setting and enforcing standards, enforcing anti-retaliation provisions of the Occupational Safety and Health Act and other federal whistleblower laws, providing and supporting training, outreach, education, and assistance, and ensuring OSHA state programs are at least as effective as federal OSHA, furthering a national system of worker safety and health protections. I'll be reviewing how OSHA uses outreach and enforcement to protect workers from extreme heat, just to give everybody some background and information. So in 2011, OSHA launched the Heat Illness Prevention Campaign to educate employers and workers on the dangers of working in heat, whether indoor or outdoor. OSHA communicated guidance on how employers can reduce heat exposure risks to their workers. OSHA has published numerous guidance documents and fact sheets on heat illness prevention over the years, which can be found on our public page. They are available in multiple languages. One example is the Protecting Workers from the Effects of Heat fact sheet. I believe that was what was distributed to the committee members. The fact sheet provides information on what is heat illness and risk factors for heat illness. And some of the protective measures have already been discussed by the other panel members, but just to give a summary, the publication summarizes the elements of a heat illness and prevention program, which comprises of creating a plan that includes monitoring, acclimatization, work rest schedules, a buddy system, and protocols for emergencies and first aid, providing training and education for all workers, and planning work schedules that encompasses checking temperatures in the work area, hydration, rest breaks, modifying schedules, monitoring for symptoms, and emergency planning. So in addition to the outreach and education, OSHA has also implemented heat enforcement initiatives over the years to focus enforcement efforts on protecting workers from potential heat-related illnesses. In 2022, OSHA issued the National Emphasis Program on Outdoor and Indoor Heat-Related Hazards. The National Emphasis Program, I'm going to call it NEP for short because we like acronyms, incorporates and expands upon these past heat enforcement initiatives to further focus on heat-related hazards. And it provides procedures for inspections in targeted workplaces. The NEP provides instructions on planned inspections and reiterates the priority on responding to complaints and employer-reported hospitalizations related to heat. The NEP also focuses efforts on outreach to the regulated community and stakeholders on heat illness prevention. So looking at outreach and compliance assistance in the fiscal year 2024 year-to-date across the New England region, OSHA has conducted around 48 outreach activities with over 5,142 attendees and over 22,548 people affected. So for example, on July 10th of this year, OSHA held a virtual event with a New England roundtable on the topic of heat. I believe there were several hundred people who registered and attended the event. OSHA, in partnership with the Massachusetts OSHA On-Site Consultation Program, the OSHA Training Institute Education Center at Keene State College, UMass Amherst, and other professional organizations held their annual OSHA Summer Summit on June 12th of this year. With an attendance of around 500 people, attendees are mostly employers, workers, and safety and health professionals, and we conducted another presentation on heat illness prevention at that conference. So since the start of the heat NEP, OSHA has conducted approximately over 6,300 inspections and handled almost 4,000 complaints across all the regions. And in the New England-Boston region, we've conducted approximately 163 inspections and handled almost 500 complaints. So as stated before, there is currently no federal OSHA standard that regulates heat stress hazards in the workplace. OSHA currently relies on the General Duty Clause of the Occupational Safety and Health Act, as well as other applicable regulations to protect workers and inform employers of their obligations. A federal heat standard would more clearly establish enforceable employer obligations and the measures necessary to effectively protect employees from hazardous heat. So on October 27, 2021, OSHA published an advanced notice of proposed rulemaking announcing that the agency was initiating the rulemaking process to consider a heat-specific workplace standard. And as everyone has already mentioned, on July 22nd, OSHA released a proposed rule on heat, and the regulatory text and additional information can be found on the OSHA public website. This is the unofficial version, and the official version will be published in the Federal Register, along with instructions on how to submit public comments to OSHA on the proposed rule. Just to summarize, the proposed standard clearly defines employer obligations and the measures necessary to effectively protect workers from occupational heat hazards. The proposed rule would apply to all employers conducting outdoor and indoor work in all general industry, construction, maritime, and agricultural sectors, with some exceptions. The proposed rule would require employers to create a heat injury and illness prevention plan to evaluate and control heat hazards in their workplace. Employers would be required to identify heat hazards, and when the heat index is at above certain levels, so we have 2 levels in the standard, take steps at no cost to workers to address heat hazards, including providing drinking water, rest breaks, controls in the indoor work areas, communicating regularly with the workers, and acclimatizing new or returning workers. The proposed rule also requires employers to provide training, have procedures to respond if a worker is experiencing signs and symptoms of heat-related illness, and take immediate actions if a worker is experiencing signs and symptoms of a heat emergency. So this is just the beginning of a process that will include extensive stakeholder involvement engagement. So we want a rule that is workable and practical and protects workers from the heat they face every day. To do that, we will need robust discussions that consider input from all perspectives. OSHA is planning public meetings for stakeholders to provide comments on the proposed rule. Additionally, the public can submit written comments once it's published in the Federal Register, and then OSHA anticipates a public hearing after the close of the written comment period. As the process moves forward, we will continue to conduct robust outreach to educate employers and workers, and we will continue to use enforcement to hold employers accountable for violations of the General Duty Clause and other applicable regulations. Safety and health are fundamental rights that every worker is entitled to. We want all employers to embrace safety and health as a core value. Thank you.
Thank you. Cora Roloffs, you have something?
Thanks very much, and greetings, and thanks for the opportunity to address this body on the important subject of protecting workers from heat. My name is Dr. Cora Roloffs, and I'm an occupational health researcher at the University of Massachusetts Lowell in the Center for the Promotion of Health in the New England Workplace. I'm also a researcher and director of evaluation for the Center for Construction Research and Training, which is based in Silver Spring, Maryland. I have a master's and a doctorate in occupational environmental health and scores of publications, dozens of research studies. I've been at this for about 30 years. I have been investigating heat hazards as a component of climate change impacts on workers' health and safety since 2014. That year, I contributed a conceptual article on workers as climate canaries to the American Journal of Public Health. I'm a co-author of book chapters on climate and workers' health. I'm the author of an article examining heat-related deaths that were investigated by the Federal Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and my comments today follow many of the points made in that article, which was entitled, Without Warning, Worker Deaths from Heat, 2014 to 2016. It's unfortunate that OSHA stopped publishing those maps that we could see all the heat deaths. I do want to say that one of the deaths that we profiled there was a death of a mail carrier in Medford that was in 2014. The General Duty Clause was used to enforce heat illness prevention plan for the U.S. Postal Service in that case. That morning, the worker called his wife and said, "This heat is going to kill me." As you know, worker deaths from heat exposure are unlike heat deaths in the non-worker population. Workers tend to be outside in hot but variable conditions and temperatures. The reason why my article was called Without Warning is because there is National Weather Service publication that says that at these temperatures this will happen, these temperatures this will happen, and what I found is that workers died at a variety of temperatures. It could be a perfectly reasonable day, such as today, after a period of 90-day heat, where someone has the accumulated impacts, the physiologic impacts of that heat, and passed away on that day. The important thing is that workers are different than the general population or the non-working population because they are working. So they are vulnerable to exertional heat stress. It's not only the outside temperature that is impacting them, potentially made worse by humidity, of course, but also the metabolic heat that they generate through the work they are doing, which varies. There are numerous other factors that make them more vulnerable to heat illness, including heat-trapping personal protective equipment and clothing. Most of us are familiar with what it's like to wear a mask in a hot space. Working in direct sunlight, the additive effect of reflective surfaces, heat-generating tools and equipment, enclosed spaces, and then proximity to heat-absorbing and radiating materials, such as roofing materials. In fact, many of these conditions are present in the situation of roofing. Roofers tend to be one of the occupations with the most vulnerability to heat illness and death. Many people can be exposed to the same objective temperature and physical conditions and not have the same physiologic response. Not everyone shows up to the job as a high-performance athlete. In fact, my study documented more than one case of people dying following training exercises, even before the job had begun, or on the first day of the job, or on a cooler day following a hot day. Many people have specific heat adverse conditions, such as an underlying chronic health condition, a heart condition, diabetes, asthma. a few extra pounds, a prescription or two, or they are dehydrated, a little hungover, or are underslept. Who of us isn't? They may be new on the job and not used to the heat. They may be new on the job and very eager to keep the job so that they won't mention that they are feeling ill or need water or are sick from the heat from the day before. And these were the conditions of the French farm worker who was profiled in a Guardian story this week, a very impactful story about death from heat. They may be new on the job and coworkers don't know their name. I would guess that everyone in this room faced with feeling dizzy in the heat would find a way to feel better. We would get some water, get to a cool place, lie down, rest for a bit. But we don't work on roofs, in yards, in warehouses, or on delivery routes. Excuse me if some of you do. But for the most part, we don't. We are here, so. Common heat illness prevention advice ignores workers' lack of control over their ability to rest and seek cooler temperatures. People work for a living, and the work has put them in the heat. The employer has the duty to protect them from recognized hazards such as heat, but since protecting them from heat means providing them with water and shade and rest, aka not working during work time, it will take an effective enforcement mechanism to save the lives of those who do not have the luxury of a beneficent and knowledgeable employer or of walking off the job. All due respect for all the training that we do, it is not enough. Heat illness and death is utterly and easily preventable. The city has the power to save lives by setting standards of decency and respect for those who labor in the heat. In addition to education and awareness, there has to be a stick. One example would be a requirement for every contractor who pulls a roofing permit for work between May and October should slide across the table a one-page checklist saying that they are prepared to protect workers from heat with the most basic elements. They have a heat illness awareness training, they have buddy systems, sufficient cool water and toilet facilities, or people won't be able to drink what they need to drink, shade or cool areas, rest breaks, and if necessary, emergency cooling. Failure to provide heat and illness protection to workers in the city of Boston has to be at least as serious as a building code violation. I'm sure there are other ways as well to creatively leverage the caring eyes and ears of the city to make sure that some of our most vulnerable people do not suffer illness and death from heat. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bethune, director, is that professor? I don't know, doctor. You're up.
Good morning, Chairman Weber and councilors, and it's great to see my colleagues that I've been working with for over 20 years here testifying with me. It's kind of awesome. Again, my name is Leon Bethune, and I'm here on behalf of the Boston Public Health Commission. I'm the director of the Community Initiatives Bureau and also the acting director of the Office of Public Health Preparedness. So today I'm going to share with you how the Boston Public Health Commission approaches heat events and how we work with our city partners to safeguard the public's health. First, I'd like to emphasize that heat is a public health issue. High temperatures exacerbate underlying medical conditions that can cause heat-related illness, such as heat stroke and heat exhaustion, and disproportionately affect the vulnerable population, especially our elderly, our very young, our unhoused, and those who work outside are especially at risk during heat waves. As you heard today, over the past century, Boston's average temperatures have increased by 2 degrees, and with the past decade being the hottest on records, this makes this an issue that's, of increasing concern. The Public Health Commission, Office of Public Health Preparedness, since 2018, we monitor weather events throughout the week, and we basically make appropriate actions to our city partners. We've adopted the following thresholds. We issue a heat advisory after 3 consecutive days of heat index reaching 90 degrees or higher. or 2 or more hours each day. We declare a heat emergency after 2 consecutive days of heat index of 95 or higher, sustained for 2 or more hours each day. So if these event thresholds are met, we recommend appropriate actions to the Office of Emergency Management, the Environment, Energy, and Open Space Cabinet, and the Mayor's Office. But leading up to the event, the Office of Emergency Management advises the Mayor the city, and city departments about possible operational impacts and schedule events. The Mayor Office issues a press release and social media communications while individual departments notify constituents and vulnerable population of potential threats and available resources. If in the event we do have a heat emergency, then the Boston Centers for Youth and Family and the Office of Emergency Management open cooling centers and provide relief resources on the day of until the heat emergency is lifted. Besides us coordinating with our city partners, we also take several additional steps. Our Medical Intelligence Center, we send out alerts to hospitals, other healthcare providers, and community organizations. We also share resources and provide information to help people stay safe. We push out messaging through all channels available to ensure people know a heat event is coming. Our Boston EMS prepares for a higher call volume than usual and staff extra units across the city. Within the commission, we've also adapted some of our own programming. For instance, we know that heat events are particularly dangerous for the unhoused. Our shelters are air conditioned and open 24 hours a day when temperatures are above 90 degrees. Our shelters have amnesty for those who are nonviolent, can access the shelter. During a heat event in June, we found daytime utilization of the shelter went up about 14%. Residents and organizations interested in learning more about preparing for heat events and other emergency can access resources through our Office of Public Health Preparedness. We have a program called Get Ready, Be Safe, Stay Healthy, and we also hold community resilience workshops to help residents prepare for and protect themselves, their loved ones, and their community from potential emergencies. In closing, I'd like to remind you and everyone listening today of some heat safety basics. During a heat event, we urge residents to stay hydrated, take breaks, visit publicly accessible places where air conditioning is available. If you don't have an AC at home, learn how to recognize the signs of heat illness or hypothermia. That is one that I know we're not going to talk about that today, and also please check on your neighbors and loved ones. And thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to go to questions from the councilors. I just had a couple quick things. It might a couple things that I read. I thought slightly more explanation from, I guess, Ms. Bott. Looking at the OSHA's very thorough explanation of the new rule. There was an explanation of why the numbers on heat-related injuries and deaths is underreported, and I guess number one, employers don't might not report it because the workers' comp. Number two, we were talking about a roofer who might faint, fall off the roof, experience an injury that doesn't get reported as a heat-related injury. It gets reported as a broken arm, whatever. So I guess, is there anything, can you just explain or comment on that briefly on, what the numbers are actually telling us? Are they very low? And what we can look at for sort of data on this?
So I can speak to at least what is required to be reported to OSHA. And Any work-related fatalities are required to be reported to OSHA. Any inpatient hospitalization of one or more workers, amputation, loss of an eye, and it's the requirement for the employer to report it to us. If it's not reported to us, we partner with local, state, and local authorities such as the police department, fire department, ME's office, and they're able to report things that employers may not report to us. We get informed of incidents that way as well. But we do recognize that the numbers that you see on heat-related injuries and illnesses is probably an underreporting of what's actually out there. What I can say is that when we do get a report of a work-related fatality and we think there is heat as a contributing factor, we investigate those. So those are just different ways that their numbers or the incidents get reported to OSHA.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to turn over to my colleagues. I was thinking we'll do 5 minutes for questions, unless somebody wants more. Councilor Santana, I'll leave you a little extra time to do an opening statement. This is the first time with this device here. I don't know how I can set it. Councilor Pepin, you have more experience chairing hearings than me. Can you set it to 5?
That clock is hard.
No, you're just making it worse. Okay. Okay. I'm never asking Councilor Pepin for any help ever again. Ethan, are you around? No. Okay. I'm just going to hit start, and then I'll let you know when 5 minutes has gone by. Thank you. You're up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that presentation. I learned quite a bit from each and every one of you, so thank you so much for putting so much hard work and detail into it. My first question is to Ms. Bott. I was doing some reading as you were speaking about how OSHA, approximately 3 weeks ago, released a proposed rule to protect indoor and outdoor workers from extreme heat. I think that was released on July 2nd, which looks amazing. But my question is, what obligations is that being put into the employers to put that into effect? Is there anything that is making them follow these proposed rules, or is it still very much just a proposal?
So the rule is a proposed rule. It's a proposed standard. Much of what's in the standard follows the published guidelines that we already have made available over the course of over a decade on the OSHA public website. And so currently what we do is use the guidance documents to educate the employers, and then when we do conduct inspections and evaluate worker exposure to heat, we do rely on our existing general duty clause of the Occupational Safety and Health Act and other applicable regulations to compel employers to follow the guidance that's already published.
Okay, no, that's very good clarity, so thank you for that. Now, let's say this is all successful and the city of Boston becomes the first city on this side of the country to pass an ordinance to protect workers during heat, or indoor and outdoor workers during heat emergencies. Would that establish OSHA's proposed rule to all employers?
So you're asking is, would the proposed rule, what
Like
workers?
instead of it being still just a proposal, would it make it mandatory for employers to start making it a mandate?
Right, yeah, so, hopefully in a couple of years, once the proposed rule becomes a final rule, it's a federal rule, so it applies to all private workplaces. And when it comes to local and state government employees, it depends on if the state has adopted a state OSHA plan. And so then you can get into a discussion of nuances of federal versus state and state OSHA plans. There are, for instance, federal OSHA standards covers all federal and private workers. And then those states who have implemented, for instance, Massachusetts is one, has adopted a state plan that covers public sector workers, then they are required to adopt the standard or a similar standard that's at least as effective as the federal standard.
Okay. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with what happened in Phoenix. I'm not. I'm asking you. Is that the approach that they took? Are they working with OSHA standards?
I'm not familiar with what Phoenix
Okay.
did.
Okay. No worries. My other question is, in one of the slides, one of the first slides, it talked about how.
Councilor Pepin, I think,
I can just tell you that the Phoenix standard says that for all contractors who are contracting with the city of Phoenix, that they need to have in place this heat illness prevention plan.
That's good to, also not just public employees, but the actual
That's right.
contractor as well. And that's something worth considering.
Yeah, Councilor Pepin, my office spoke with Phoenix. They also worked with the state to come up with a state rule, I believe, that so would allow them to kind of go forward. But there was some coordination there, so maybe we should look at that also.
No, that sounds great. And I was saying that one of the stats that caught my attention was that Black and brown employees are the most impacted by this. I believe it was 51% for Black employees and 91% for Mexican employees. I'm assuming that's like more in the western hemisphere of the country. Why is that? I think I know the underlying issue, but what is the reason provided in the research?
Yeah, and I'm happy to provide the study that showed that, but I think there's a couple of things that it cites. First and foremost, that Black and brown workers tend to be more predominantly in the occupations and construction occupations, which put people more at risk, and they also tend to be in those occupations working with employers that are possibly they're undocumented, or employers that are not as large and understanding of the rules and regulations or OSHA's general duty clause or any of those kinds of things. But primarily the study cites that it's because those workers are more often in the most dangerous occupations.
Okay. Oh, thank you for that. Just one of those numbers that always catches your attention when it's that high. But honestly, I'm just looking forward to continue working with Councilor Weber and our colleagues, because I think that this is something that Boston can really take the lead on. I'm surprised that more municipalities haven't done something about this, considering, I mean, the numbers that you provided, where you said, 10 to 12 more 90-degree days in the next few decades, to 15 to 20 more 80-degree days. That's new to Boston. So I think that we need to really take the lead on that. But thank you so much for your presentation. I'll yield the rest of my time.
Yeah, thank you. We'll just go back to 7. And I guess just something that Councilor Pepin just brought up. I read in the research that there's an issue with acclimatization with workers. Maybe Professor Rolas was referring to that, where workers are more susceptible in the first, if they're not used to the heat. You can actually, or maybe not. I think in the OSHA sort of documentation, there were studies on that. And how maybe we can talk about that during my time. But Professor Ross, did you have something to say about acclimatization? In terms of a region that's not, people are not used to being out in 95-degree weather.
Exactly.
It could be an increased need to address it here, where it could suddenly all this, we're going from it could be 65 degrees to 95, the next week.
Yes, some of it comes, the issues on acclimatization start really from people who are working consistently hot environments, like indoor, like working in a foundry or military, or in areas where it's consistently hot. And there you have the opportunity to phase people in, because the human body can adapt to a certain amount of heat. It's not infinite. And the adaptation is, if you look at the schedules of acclimatization, it's like work 15 minutes a day until you're like for 3 or 4 days. And then unfortunately, after 10 to 14 days, if you leave the hot temperature, that acclimatization process, the body will go back to where it was. So it's not a permanent adaptation. So you might be into a cycle of constantly getting used to or not. And you may come onto a job where you have been working outside and you're ready to go. So this is part of my point, is that it varies. A lot of people, it's amazing how many people die on their first day on the job. And in terms of heat, heat is one of the reasons. It's not only because they're not used to the heat, it's they don't know where the water is, no one knows their name, nobody's checking on them. They're not going to say, I'm not feeling well today, because they want to keep the job. So acclimatization is actually kind of complex. It's not just a straightforward physiologic process. It's difficult to achieve, it's difficult to maintain, it wears off and you have to start again. It's a pretty complex thing to rely on for protecting people.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Murphy, I'm just going to give you 7 minutes. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'll follow the rules. We don't need a timer. Thank you. Thank you for your presentations. A lot of what I had opened with, you touched on, and so it leaves me with the same feeling I started with, that there's a lot of knowledge here in this room. We have the data, we know what we need to do, but how do we turn that into policies that are going to keep our employees safe? So I guess that's the job and the work we have to do, working alongside all of you to make sure that we can ensure that our workers are safe. And I'm looking forward to the next panel of the workers, right, who are out there and do know. And many of them, if they're in a union, are able to say what you're saying. Like, we have, practices in place and policies in place that we hope that no one feels like they can't ask or you can't take a break, right? So the power of the union and the protections that give, oftentimes we only think about wages and other things, but the safety of your health and welfare is important also. So thank you, and just looking forward to continuing to working with you to make sure that we can make these policies here in the city. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Santana?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to our panelists. I've learned a lot. I really care about our workers here in the city of Boston. And I'm also thankful for my colleague, Councilor Pepin, for bringing up when it comes to our Black and Brown and our immigrant community and the challenges that they're facing there. So, and thankful for my colleague, Councilor Murphy, as well, as I think we have the data, right, like as you mentioned, and, really coming up and working with our colleagues to try to find different policies. And, we really want to be able to create these policies, and I know some of you spoke on the enforcement side of it. Can you just, and anyone, it goes to anyone, I think, what more can we be doing when it comes to enforcement? And what are concrete steps that we could be doing here in the city of Boston? Not necessarily on a general level, but on a very specific level here, because I think that's where we're seeing, right, the deaths and the incidents that we're seeing. So to anyone on the panel, would like to get more insight on that.
I can say a little more about the tactics that we've used with the construction and demolition safety ordinance, and thank Dr. Roloffs also for the option. For us as the city, we can continue to use our permitting as an opportunity to ensure that the contractors that work in the city are providing not just a site safety plan, but a heat illness prevention plan. And we know that that does, though, also take education and outreach. One of the things that happened when we implemented the construction and demolition safety plan and said, you all need to have a site safety plan, and everybody said, okay, what is that and how do we do it? So providing the resources on how to do a hazard assessment and create a plan was really critical to the success. We're only 7 months into that ordinance, so I think we'll be coming back with more information and data, but the same strategy could be used here. And I think there's also the strategy that Phoenix used, which is using the power and scope of our contracting, so that every contractor within the city of Boston has to do that same kind of work and provide a heat illness prevention plan as part of their documentation. We use that for wage theft in our wage theft executive order. People need to disclose wage theft violations. If they've got violations, they need to have a bond and show how they're not going to make sure that they pay their workers. We've got examples within the city on how we've used those, the minimal power we have as a municipality, our contracting and our permitting, to really drive fair labor standards, and I think we can do it here with heat illness prevention as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, and I look forward to that work. It's very critical, and again, really want to make sure that our workers here in the city of Boston, our residents here are protected from this. So really appreciate the panel for being here, and I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple questions, first, I'd like to recognize Farouk Saabin. He's here from Senator Markey's office. I believe Senator Markey is also working on this issue at the federal level. I'd also like to acknowledge State Senator Roush, who has a bill pending in the state legislature that would create similar kind of protections for workers all across the state, and I'm hoping we can work together. So I guess, Jody, my question's for you in terms of, what can we do? The first part is, what kinds of workers should we be looking at? They're city employees, contractors who contract with the city, and can we reach people who don't fit into either of those categories who are working in the city?
Yeah.
Have you given thought to that?
Yeah, and I'm sure others have thoughts as well, but I think that we can start with the most impacted workers, construction workers, by our partnership with Inspectional Services Department and building permits. We saw a third of the deaths are of heat illness. So if we look at the same strategies we used for that ordinance to try to ensure that we're providing the same kinds of requirements for construction workers, we can do that. Folks with contracts with the city of Boston obviously hit a wider breadth of indoor and outdoor workers. And I think there's an opportunity to ensure that we're hitting more. We're doing a lot of education and outreach internally with our own workers, providing technical support and assistance to the departments that have workers outside and inside if they're working in high heat. So I think there's a lot of different strategies. I think it's harder for us to look at strategies of where we don't have a specific contract or permit, but there is no preemption as for the moment. OSHA does not have a rule. So unless the state partners with us on something more broadly, we can, as the city, look at different strategies as well. But I think indoor and outdoor workers are part of the OSHA proposed rule, because there are many workers who are working indoors who are facing the same kind of threats of heat illness, in bakeries and even warehouses where people are working in delivery service warehouses and things like that. There's a lot of danger there. And I think the other thing that's really important that Dr. Roloff's brought up is everybody has their own personal risk factors. It's not the same for everybody. It's understanding your personal risk factors, understanding the signs and symptoms, understanding what it means to acclimatize. I never say that word properly. Those are all, the training is so important. And I think the other thing is that this is not a big lift for employers to do this kind of training and outreach and changing work schedules, I would argue.
Okay, yeah, I guess, and then in terms of, I don't know, if, maybe under the OSHA proposed rule, I don't know if anyone has any ideas, what's the consequence for not following these rules if we do set up an ordinance? I don't know, in terms of OSHA, what happens if, somebody dies in a workplace and they weren't provided with these things? What's the enforcement mechanism?
Well, I can speak to the OSHA enforcement mechanism. Just to give you a sense of how you would want to do something in the state, but when we conduct an inspection, and I'm just going to talk broadly in general terms, when we go and conduct an inspection, find that employees are exposed to a hazard and that the employer has violated one of our OSHA standards, then we do issue a citation. The citation comes with penalties. It's a structured penalty. and the penalty amount varies, and there's a lot of contributing factors that is taken into account, and then we also give the employer a due date when they have to correct the hazards. And once that's issued, the employer can always challenge the citations that we've issued, and there's a mechanism for the employers to challenge that. But what we ultimately look for is what we call abatement, corrections from the employer.
Okay, yeah, any suggestions from the panel on what we could do here? I think you, Professor Rolas, you mentioned permits and...
Yeah, I would think that there would be, you could look at it, an analysis of it, what people want from the city, and not give it to them if they don't have the heat illness prevention plan in place. And a permit would be one of them for any number of construction activities would be one. The other is, of course, the city funds youth jobs, and these organizations are broad across the city, and they want funds to employ youth. And that would also be what's your heat illness, and I believe that some action was taken in that to protect youth this summer. So there are many things that people want. I'll also mention that OSHA and the state rarely, but sometimes enforce criminal penalties against employers that kill workers. And the state of Massachusetts, the Attorney General prosecuted the owner of Atlantic Drain Company, where 2 workers were killed some years ago in a trench collapse. That was a repeat offender. I think, although Ami may not be able to say it, she probably knows that OSHA enforcement has not catalyzed the massive change in employer behavior that we would like to see. And so I think it is an opportunity to get creative about thinking about where the pressure points are and where the opportunities are to catalyze change in recalcitrant employers.
Jody, do you have anything to add?
I can say that we're working also, and Inspectional Services Department has been a great partner in health and safety work, and working with the building inspectors to actually utilize the tools we have in order to, they have the power to stop work when they see issues, there dangerous issues on site, to issue violations and things like that. And we're working with them to understand how they've used the first 7 months of the construction and demolition safety ordinance to do that kind of activity and what's been most effective. But our building inspectors do have some power with regards to the implementation of our labor policies that directly connect to the permitting process.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to start the clock on myself. I don't know what the penalties are for me, but and there's no enforcement mechanism. But so I have one more quick question. It's a short answer, maybe, and it's at what point should these protections, if we have the heat-related protections, like what should we use as the guide? Should we use a wet bulb temperature of whatever? And I'm curious that we have everyone here. Professor Wallace, if you could wait till the end, because I think I think your answer is going to be different than everyone else's.
Okay.
But I don't know if we could start, Zoe, if you have any thoughts on that.
I'm happy to chime in, but I would also welcome response from Leon as well.
Yeah, we can start with Leon, I guess. But Zoe, you chime away.
I think one thing to note is that we have our extreme heat threshold at 90 degrees. I would offer that this is very high. And so in thinking about protections for workers, threshold around the 80s with consideration for a day or hour duration. But I'm not a public health person, but in the work that I've been doing, hearing from folks that an 83-degree day is too hot, and an 83-degree day for multiple days on end is too hot. So that's weighing into my considerations.
Okay, everyone is invited to give a shorter. Just give me a degree, Jody.
if I was doing the training that I've been doing for our city workers as well as our contractors, the heat index, there's a chart that you can see where is the humidity rises, and it shows really clearly that where we're going into caution and danger and extreme danger. Obviously there's other things like reflective heat, which I think is another really important thing to take into consideration. But the heat index is used quite often, and understanding people's personal risk factors is really important as well, because what is okay for some workers is not going to be the same. It's not a perfect fit for when we're going into caution, danger, and extreme danger for every individual, but that guideline is very clear. And there's an app for it that OSHA has put together, and I have on my phone, and others should, where you can, right in your area, will tell you whether or not you're in a yellow, red, green zone. The OSHA and NIOSH app is an excellent tool. It also has information on training and first aid and all of those kinds of things.
So is there a number on the heat index that we should use or should not? One of the answers could be do not use a number because it needs to be.
I don't think I could say a specific number, but
Okay.
looking in the red, yellow, green caution zones that OSHA defines within OSHA and NIOSH have defined in that app are a really good tool.
Okay. Spot.
I'm not going to make a recommendation, but I will say what we have in our proposed rule and also in our heat national emphasis program. The two triggers is the initial heat trigger, which is a heat index of 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and that requires the employers to do certain measures. And then the high heat trigger is a heat index of 90 degrees Fahrenheit, where it requires employers additional measures to implement. And I will just say, we have seen worker deaths at temperatures in the 80s. So, 80 to 85. So I'll just leave it there.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to just, you'll be last, Professor. Director Bethune.
Sure, for me, I agree with our OSHA colleagues. I really think it's really hard to even come up with a number because, workers vary from all different aspects. Where they're coming from and what underlining things they have. So it's, if you're looking at a number, 80s is probably a good way to start, but it all depends on the person. So I don't have a good answer.
Okay, well, to follow up on Councilor Murphy's comment, there's a high level of expertise on the panel, and if you can't, come up with a number, I don't think we can do that either. So, but anyway, Professor, if you have.
I think the numbers are fine for most. It's a phased-in thing, what happens at different temperatures. I think what we can say is may, right, for us or whatever. Or if there's a potential exposure to a hazard in the workplace, whether it's falls or heat, the employer has a duty to understand what is a potential hazard for the workers that they have. And they should, at that point, be doing training and what the plan is, et cetera. Certainly just for the basics, like is heat a potential hazard in this workplace, at that point, that's when the planning begins. And then if you need to have temperatures, if somebody, dies or goes to the hospital at 82 degrees and there wasn't, we're going to say that, I think that's probably your, legislative problem, but that employer had a duty to do something. There are certain things that, like whether you're going to have like an emergency cooling setup on site. I actually do some volunteering on a farm, and we're very clear that if somebody was really suffering, we would immerse them in the brook next to the farm, So like certain workplaces, you should have that emergency system set up at whatever temperature. But basically the rule is, to me, the employer has to assess, is there a potential hazard from heat for the work that I'm creating here?
Okay, thank you. Before I dismiss the panel, Councilor Braden, do you have any questions?
Very quickly. Okay. Very quickly, thank you. I had to step out for a few minutes. This is really important, and thank you all for being here today. I don't know, in my absence, if we talked about hours of work. Like in other countries that have very hot summers, they actually take a siesta in the middle of the day and everybody goes and has a nap and keeps cool. And yet on building construction sites here in the city, we're not able to start before 7 o'clock if it's in the summertime, any time of the year, but because it's disruptive to residents, etc. But you know, the heat, the peak times of heat in the day are like afternoon, like 1, 2, 4 o'clock in the afternoon is usually the hottest hour of the day. Are we looking at shifting in times of heat wave or whatever, that we would be able to allow workers to start earlier so you wouldn't be working in the heat of the day? Or are we thinking creatively about, because I know we had a brownout in Alston Brighton a few years ago, so it was really hot. The electricity grid went down, and then the electricity workers had to come in and dig holes and do the whole thing. But it was like the heat index was close to 100, and we were all suffering because we didn't have any power. But they were actually out doing the work to try and fix it, and it was an emergency, and there was no way out of it. But you know, are we thinking creatively about other mitigations that we can sort of find workarounds to try and support workers who are essential workers? They can't, it's a bit like in COVID, they can't not go to work, we need them, you know. So are we thinking about those sort of variables as well?
I can say that some of the things that you mentioned are what we might call administrative controls, where we change the hours that people work, but in those emergency situations we can reduce, like, you work for 15 minutes, then you take a break. People carrying heavy equipment, that responsibility, rotating around. You can put in place different kinds of administrative changes to the work schedule and the way that work is done to ensure that we're reducing the risk to workers. In addition to knowing signs, symptoms, buddy system, water, rest, and shade, we really can look at how people are doing the work and make sure that we're creating opportunities for that risk reduction.
Yeah, that sounds good. And you know, to our previous panelist from New York, was it New York? New York? Yes, New York. Like what's happening in Texas and Florida is brutal. It's brutality. It's human. It's abusive and it's cruel and it's brutality. So I think we're trying to find workable solutions that will improve worker safety on the job. And this is our new reality. We're going to have days and long periods of time. You know, I don't know how many 90-degree days have we had so far this summer.
Oh, so far this summer, I will have to check back and see.
Yeah, I'm thinking we might have had 10 already, and it's only early to middle July. We had 90-degree days before it was officially summer this year. So so this is our new reality. And thank you for all your work. And let's hope we can keep our workers safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Just a follow-up question from my colleague, Councillor Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I couldn't help myself listening to you all. I did some research as you all spoke, and I was able to find that Harvard Medical School released that here in Massachusetts alone, air pollution caused by heat waves has caused, associated with 2,800 deaths, 15,000 cases of asthma, and 300 underweight births a year in Massachusetts alone. That led me to think about, like, are there numbers specifically for Boston that is correlated to heat wave? And second, in regard, I don't know if it's OSHA, workforce empowerment, are there protection for workers that are impacted and their injuries are impacted due to heat waves? Because obviously this all seems to be connected. And I represent a district where Mattapan has the highest rate of childhood asthma in the entire city, and Hyde Park is not far behind. And I'm just thinking about how this all plays a role of increase in heat wave, impacting the workforce, and it's impacting our health in general. Are there protections in place in terms of healthcare or just worker protection, or are those conversations happening?
Meaning to protect workers who have particular vulnerabilities like asthma and things
Yes.
like that from heat. I think that's part of when we talked about personal risk factors and understanding that people with asthma are more impacted and likely to have a higher impact from heat illness. In fact, if you've had heat exhaustion in the past, you are now more likely to have it again, which is why it's so important for any heat illness prevention plan for workers to understand, get training on their own personal risk factors so that they know their rights as well as how they need to protect themselves when these kinds of high heat incidents happen. I don't think there's anything in place now, and I don't know, I think maybe my colleagues at the Public Health Commission can talk about Boston-specific data on heat illness. I'm not sure, or maybe you know, Zoe, but...
The Public Health Commission would probably be.
Okay.
I think, so we were looking at this the other day with the DPH, and they're now starting to produce data on emergency room visits during heat emergencies. So that data is being compiled, and we'll get access to that.
Yeah, first of all, that's great to know that that's happening, and once it's published, I mean, I'll probably have my team try to find it, but if you get it before, please do let us know.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Pippin. I just had one last question, and I think this is for Dr. Roloff. Why did we see the reaction to the efforts to have these kinds of protections in Florida and Texas? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Why did Florida and Texas take action to eliminate protection for vulnerable workers?
Yes, I mean, do you have it?
If you want to start the clock for 7 hours, I'll be happy to answer that.
Okay, well.
But I think that, I mean, we can, it seems the second panel will be hearing from workers, and of course, we have different levels of enforcement and power. We may be counting on the Supreme Court justices to protect us, or we may be taking action on our own work sites to protect each other and in our neighborhoods. So I guess that's what I'd say. From the last question, I just want to add that the Workers' Comp Research Institute, which is based in the Metro Boston area, just published a study showing that injuries overall increased 7% with increasing temperatures. So this just adds on to what Councilor Pepin was discussing about how there are many other impacts of the heat.
Okay, I just want to thank the panelists for your time and your very informed testimony, and so thank you. We're going to hear from another panel, of people who are experiencing these effects and working here in Boston. So if you want to stick around to listen to them, you're invited to stay. So again, thank you very much. Can we take just a 5-minute? We're going to take a 5-minute break and come back and speak to everyone else. Thank you. Do I have to gavel for no? Okay, well, then we'll just take a break. Second panel today, we have someone who's an experienced advocate here in the state, Richard Rabin from Mascosh, and we have 3 people who are out there every day, working in the heat. We got Frank Murray, who's the president of Local 7s. We've got Michelle Wright, who is an organizer with Northern New England Carpenters Union, and we've got Abur Rahim Zatri, who is a member of 32BJ and who works at Logan Airport. I imagine we may have a couple questions, but we'd love to hear from you. I'm just going to, again, start at my left and go to my right. If you'd like to say, anything, what your reaction to today is, what you're seeing out there, what kind of advice you'd have for us as we go back and try to come up with some rules, we'd love to hear it. So I guess, Mr. Rabin?
Yes, my name's Richard Rabin. I'm with the Massachusetts Coalition for Occupational Safety and Health, MASCOSH. We've been around since 1976, I believe. We advocate for workers who have particularly abusive workplaces, people who they're immigrants or they're other disadvantaged workers. Wow. What a novel idea. Water, rest, shade. As you heard from a number of people, everybody knows that these are decent, common sense measures. But unfortunately, there are a number of employers that haven't gotten the message so far. And that's what we want to address. Let me give you a couple of examples that we have. We have what's called a worker center, where we take complaints from workers about their workplace issues. They help each other. They advocate for each other. There was a recent case where at the worker center, which involved a local supermarket, and they were cashiers working part-time shifts. According to the supervisor, they were not allowed to take a break, and they were not even allowed to have water, a bottle of water next to them. Another case within the last couple of years, at a commercial laundromat in Chelsea, people were fainting, people were feeling ill, there wasn't proper ventilation, there wasn't access to drinking water, and our worker staff took measurements of the temperature, and it was an incredible 115 degrees inside. Now, as you've also heard, that people, there are not just immediate health effects from extreme heat, but there are somewhat longer-term things like respiratory illness, diabetes, heart disease that can extend into months and years after people have been exposed. What this means as far as numbers goes means that whatever numbers you're going to hear from the government about a number of people dying, number of people exposed to excessive heat, those are extreme undercounts of the real problem because of these longer-term diseases. And I haven't seen numbers that tell you the story, but it's clearly much greater than whatever numbers you're hearing officially. And with that, I'll take questions from the panel, because really everything else of importance was brought up in the first panel.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think we'll have a couple questions at the end. Frank, if you have anything you want to tell us?
Yeah, first off, thank you, Councilor Weber, Councilor Pepin, as well as Councilor Murphy. I want to especially thank you, Ben, for inviting me to this and being able to represent Local 7 and workers in general, to be able and speaking upon, the struggles we face during the hot months of the year. I know obviously, the last 2 weeks, I believe it was July 8th, I think was the Monday, we had about 12 to 14 days of like 90 plus. So these last 2 weeks, it was scorching hot, and I'll bring it to my experience. I'm a steward on a job. I'm also the president at Local 7. We represent roughly 3,800 members throughout Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. So the whole Northeast region basically is our jurisdiction. So going back to the last couple of weeks, obviously the heat was excruciating. I'm a steward on a job over in Cambridge, and the beauty of being in a union is having the ability to have representation on the job, obviously off the job as well. But when you're in a union job site or on a union job site, it's being promoted. Are you drinking enough water? Are you, do you have, any symptoms? And these are in like pre-job meetings, before the day you start work at 7 o'clock. You might have a little 5-10 minute meeting before the day goes on. And in the panel before us, there was mentioned about, the people that may have had a late night the night before, or, they went to a concert or a ball game or whatever. And those people can be reminded, I got to drink a little extra water today. It's going to be hot. The general contractors on the job as well are seriously promoting, they have electrolyte packets, the sugar packets that you can put into your water. They have freeze pops now that they can have on the job site for people to grab as they're working or when they come down for a break. So in my experience as a union member, it's always been promoted, your personal safety, your personal hydration, your personal like how you're feeling in your physical body. And if there is any pushback on that, again, going back to the representation, you have the steward, he or she can then call the business agent or go to that measure and say, hey, they're not letting the guys or the girls come down, the men or the women come down and grab water. And that's, I will say, for that being said, it's not very often, because it's always promoted that, hydration's key, especially in times like we're in right now. You talk about the heat, and there's over 10 to 12 days already this summer, and we didn't even have that last summer. The last 2 weeks were serious, and I know from experience from being out there, we didn't have any injuries. Hydration was promoted. If there was any issues, the business agent can always come down and try to press the issue of, hey, we need water, or give the guys an extra 5 minutes at the end of break, extend the break from 15 to 20 minutes. If they need to come down and go into the shack where it's a climate controlled area, that's very important for each and every worker on the job site to have, and I think being in a union is representative of that. So if there was anything, from the council's level or at the city level, if there's questions on the legislation that you guys are trying to pass for the unrepresented worker or the person that's in, another sector other than the building trades, like lean on us, lean on the building trades, because we do promote that. We promote hydration and coming down, taking that extra 5 minutes. And knowing your membership, too. I heard someone speak one time, it was a labor leader, and he said, knowing your membership, there might be a gentleman that may like to have a couple adult beverages the night before, but if you know that member, and you know it's going to be hot the next day or that day, as a steward, you can walk, hey, make sure you mix in a couple, grab an extra water today, you know what I mean? So there's no problem in that guy, what he does off the hours, off of working hours. But as a steward, if I know my members and I know the guys that I'm working with, I can encourage that guy as opposed to the guy who is a workout freak, fitness guru, and he's going to get his water regardless. But if there's somebody, as we know, we're on construction sites, like you can kind of, you know who likes to go out on Friday night, and if we're working Saturday, hey, make sure you're throwing in extra water, and that's knowing your membership. It's the union way. We're not just working colleagues, we're brothers and sisters. And I will say one thing regarding Local 7 and drinking water and the simple necessities of life, obviously. We have it in our CBA. It's Article 5, Section 9. It says, "The employer shall furnish suitable drinking water at all times, and each job of sufficient size and length to justify same shall be provided with a shed or a room for the employers to change their clothes and keep their tools." So just common hospitality stuff. Obviously, the water is more pertaining to this specific panel, but the drinking water, like it's in our CBA, our signatory contractors sign on to employ iron workers and abide by that CBA. So every job I've been on since I've been in Local 7 has always had drinking water, you know. So again, thank you for inviting me as a panelist, and I'm excited to hear the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Michelle?
Thanks. Thank you, Councilman Weber, and thank you, Councilman Pepin, and thank you, Councilman Murphy. I totally agree with my brother, my iron worker here, representing the carpenters. We've always had that same standard. That's why we believe in having responsible contractors, because responsible contractors for the union has dedicated their time to making sure that before we call it job talks in the morning, before we start, along with our stretch and flex, they talk about today's a hot one, please make sure we are hydrating, and they're checking, they're walking around. I remember being an apprentice and I got to walk around and give out the popsicles. So I was the cool girl, you know, literally cool. So those things are huge to make sure that you feel that they care about your health and they care about your awareness. Because of course we want you to build something, but also we want you to build something. We talk about going home and being with your family with your 10 toes and your 10 fingers, but we want to make sure that your heart's running and you're okay and you haven't passed out or anything on us. So all of that is 100% standard. And again, he says it again, I'm going to reiterate what my brother said. Having a steward on the job, you have somebody that's advocating and double checking on you because they know what kind of workers they have. That's what a steward does. We call them the councilman of the job. You know, when you're a student in high school, you have a counselor knows who you are. Well, our stewards know who we are. They know what kind of person we are. Even if we're fresh out the hall, they know what kind of person they're getting. So that's a plus for us. But having responsible GCs, knowing that these are the standards just to make us work like gentlemen and ladies, that's huge. So that on that end, we totally get it. But if working with GCs that do not have those as standard, which is, I would have to say, unfortunately, the non-union, if it's not standard, I've seen it. I've gone on to non-union jobs as an organizer. That's what I do. And I've been on those jobs and I don't see fans. I don't see water stations. I don't see mist stations. When we had those days behind each other, I was on a Skanska job. They had mist fans and they had fans on each floor. Then I go to another job with another GC, I won't say their name. They didn't even have a water station for their workers. And we went to the workers and say, are you staying cool? What's going on? That I actually, when their break time came and their coffee truck came, I opened my trunk and I had ice cold water in there because I had it for some of my guys at something else that we were doing, but I'd rather give it to them because I'm a human being. I really don't care who you are. You're just a human being and you need some cold water. So those are the things that us union, we do stand for. If you just have a responsible contractor that cares about human beings, you'll be okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zatri?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abdurrahman Zatri. I work at Logan Airport. I work with the subcontractor. We're doing service for the airline. The job is not that easy to do, the job. You work in the ramp, and now we see, we have 95. You have the wing worker. You have the marshal. When you push the flight, it's gonna take you like 20 minutes, and the people staying in the heat. Plus, the people getting a job. You're doing a lot of job. It's not that easy. I've been in that job, and I'm working too. I work in the bag room and I work in the ramp. The time we loaded the bags in the airplane, we can't stand that, and you have to throw the bags. Plus, where we work, we got a lot of seafood. over than 70 pounds. It's a lot of work. And why I'm here today to support our worker and all worker in Massachusetts. We support them. We have to recognize those people. We do a hard job. Without us, there's not going to be no airline because we do a hard job. And then we have to recognize the people working. It's like, too many times I've been working in the lab, you gotta see people shower, like a taking shower at 95 degrees in the pit. And you have to, in your neck, to the back, you don't have a space to stand up. Just you hold the bag. You need, and you have to push it. It's hard. We have, I think everyone is agree with me to recognize those people, yep, for their hard job. I'm asking those gentlemen here, because I'll talk with those people, we give him back. We need to separate PTU from vacation. And if it's possible, we can get $1 for 5 years, every year, $1 about the hard job we're doing. All the worker outside, anywhere, we do hard work. And we have to recognize those people to stay, keeping the business going. If we don't do that, everybody's going to lose. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zatri. I guess, do they provide water for you when you're doing
Yes, we have
with the
water,
bags?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We have water.
How do you bring it out there? Do you have like a bottle or something? Or?
No, we have those, we have one fridge already, automatic, you come the water cold, and we have this big bottle. Yeah. But outside you can control the water, because me, I take 3 T-shirts with me every day, because I know I'm gonna go to the pit. If you sweating, believe me, you see like you taking a shower in the pit. And those people is killing themselves. They're working hard. And you know the airport.
Yeah, I think, and especially they highlighted that my office spoke with Phoenix, which is the only city right now that has a heat ordinance for workers, and they were very concerned about workers at the airport, especially who worked in the jetway. There was no air conditioning.
No.
People who were out there on the tarmac, they have to wear, you can't just wear, whatever you want.
It's not in the summertime. The same thing in the winter time. You can be staying for 5 minutes, and you know the weather in New England. Yeah. Today it's hot, tomorrow it's freezing. You got your jacket. You got your jacket for the cold, and 5 minutes, 90 degrees.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So I have two of my colleagues are here.
I'm sorry to cut you. Yeah. The only thing we have to recognize those people, give them back. We need it. If you need us, we need you. We work together.
Yeah, no, that's what.
That's two things. That's what, because I'm working with my people, because I'm working with them, not against them. We need to separate PTU, because it's a little bit abused from PTU and sick time. We need to be separate. Because when you take in PTU, you lose vacation. Yeah. When you take vacation, you lose PTU. You have to be separate. That's where we're gonna give more people, and I'm asking for $1 for 5 years. Each year is $1, because we work hard, and everybody know. Because people fly, he doesn't know how he get his bag. The process to get your bag is taking a long time. Sometimes we got bag, we have to find where he's going. He came from another terminal, and to be on time.
Yeah, no, you have a very strong advocate in your corner, in 32BJ, and certainly, I think as a counselor and as a workers' rights advocate for a long time, I'm happy to do whatever I can. That's why we're having this hearing. Mr. Zatri, I just want to turn over to my colleagues. If you have any questions, Councilor Pepin?
Good afternoon. I just want to start by saying thank you. I just listened to you all, Michelle, you specifically, just knowing, getting to work with you. It reminds me of why I'm such a fan of unions and the protection that you give your workers, and why we need to keep advocating for you all in the city of Boston. Listening to, I want to make sure I'm saying your name correctly, Mr.
Zatri.
Zatri.
Yeah.
My dad was a ramp worker for American Eagle. And then he lost his job when American Eagle left Boston.
I'm sorry to cut off you. How old are you? Can you make a guess?
30 years old.
I'm 67.
67.
Yeah.
He's young.
I look like 67.
Okay.
I'm like.
I think he's 25.
You're looking right?
I'm older than your father.
Yes. You are. You look good. And
Thank you.
I'm glad that you're here testifying, because the reason why I bring that up is because I remember he would get home sweating after his shifts at the airport. And it just makes you think about the carpenters, the iron workers, and everyone in every single union that are working tirelessly in our city throughout any weather condition, if it's heat or freezing cold. I guess my question is, I asked the previous panelist question is, what kind of protection do unions serve their employees if they are impacted by specifically heat emergencies? If someone is injured because of the heat waves, if someone gets asthma because of the heat, like do unions provide any protection or like to what you were mentioning on specific time off?
Well, I can speak for saying as a steward, I mean, he's a steward, so I can speak for when I was a steward. Anything that happened to any of our carpenter workers, or better yet, if it happened to any of our other brothers and we witnessed something, we would speak to the next steward and say, this is what happened. But if anything happened to one of our carpenters and you're on the site, obviously, we would bring the report, we would put a whole report together that would get given to the subcontractor, if you're working for a subcontractor, before you get to the contractor, and it will all get to the contractor. This will all be written so that they have, basically, I would say, receipts to everything that happened, from what happened from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and how did we get to this situation. And then, of course, in any other reports, it would also say what could have been done to not happen, or what could have been done to change. So there's always, in any standard report for contractors, I used to be a super, so they always have a standard, and that's a part of the standard is what happened, how do we get there, how do we fix it, and how do we never have this problem again.
Yeah.
And then as a steward, they make sure that the worker, if they need to be at a hospital, they get there. The steward checks on the worker. If they need to have more time off, it is relayed back to the subcontractor or contractor, whoever you're working for. They're not penalized for an injury on the job for if it was dehydration or any kind of injury. And that's why having responsible contractors is a plus versus non-responsible contractors. So there is the backing of having, I say it again, your counselor, your steward on the job, because that is the plus. And that makes you feel strong as any. I know me coming up as a female working in construction, you're nervous if you get hurt, injured, or anything, they're going to get rid of me. No, not in the union.
And yeah, Sister Rochelle, I think you hit a lot of the great points. I feel the same way. To piggyback off your, like the reports and things of that nature, the accident reports. Our friends from OSHA mentioned, the recordables. If there is a hospitalization, that goes back to the, goes back to the contractor. They will have to keep that on file, keep it on record. And then naturally it turns into, like Sister Rochelle said, how do we not have this happen again? We will now incorporate hydration. If we're speaking about, dehydration, we're going to incorporate making sure people are hydrated, enforcing that. The apprentice, you talk about, I was that apprentice too, at one point, chasing guys down. You need a water, throwing waters up to guys up on the iron. and making sure that they're hydrated. It becomes almost like a job title for young apprentices. So, yeah, I think just the record keeping and how, and then if it turns into workman's comp, they're not penalized in the sense where, we heard some of these scare tactics from folks in different like professions of, I don't want to lose my job because I just got here, or I'm the new guy, or things like that. That stereotypical BS has to be put to rest, because it's basic human rights. Like someone mentioned, if you brought your kid to the beach, you would have water and, make sure you have shade and things of that nature. Like, you're going to work, you're not going to war, you're gonna go make your pay, 8 hours, work, and go home and, like Sister Rochelle said, leave the same way you came in, with no physical harm or anything of that nature. And knowing that you have representation, so yeah, you hit a lot of great points.
Right, no, I just want to reiterate, I think we have a lot to learn from the unions.
Yes.
I think that you all provide such a safe working environment. I think I saw Ian around here. I went to go tour your Dorchester site for the carpenters, and just seeing all the protocols that you follow, the training that you give your employees. I just want to give you guys a shout out for that, because it was impressive.
Thank you.
And again, I think we have a lot to learn from you all. I think that the type of work and the protection you have for your employees is something that we should be implementing everywhere to make sure that we are protecting our workers, either union or non-union. But with that, I will yield the rest of my time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Murphy?
Thank you for sharing, and I think when I opened my statement about many people are kind, they use common sense, they help each other, you all just gave real examples of how you do that, but it's also written into, the fabric of the union. And I'm hearing from the labor union, so I do just want to make sure that, our 32BJ, our SEIU employees too, have the same, advocacy, and making sure, because when you were speaking, sir, about, working at the airport, it reminded me also, 20 years, I was a waitress and working in hot kitchens, so it's our, restaurant workers, bakery shop workers, mail carriers, all of the, it's not just outdoor workers, but when you're in hot, confined spaces. And we are talking about extreme cases, right? It's not every day. So, and we're also seeing that we're going to probably continue to have more extreme heat. So it will be not just 1 or 2 days where can we let people leave early? Can we, give them longer breaks? All that should just be common sense, but making sure that it is protected in the workers, that if they have to leave early, that they're not going to be penalized. If they need to take a longer break, that's just expected or allowed by their bosses. So I do think, like we said earlier, like how do we take all this information and data and turn it into policy to keep our workers safe? And how do we make sure that if they're not fortunate enough to have a steward like the two of you on a job, like, do people know that you still have rights? And I think often, like about the occupational hazards, when, the firefighters, we've had hearings here, and when I've advocated to make sure, maybe it's not going to be today that you have heat stroke in the heat, maybe you have long-term effects from this, the firefighters, we talk about the cancer exposure and others, and maybe you don't see it for years later. So making sure that we're following that. And if you have any advice on how do we advocate for those who don't have that strong support, that know that no one's going to think less of you or think you can't handle it, that do the right thing and then the job will get done. Because at the end of the day, you all are proud of the work you do and you do a great job. So making sure that if whatever advocacy we can give here on the council to support that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Murphy. We've been joined by Councilor Sharon Durkin. If you want to make a statement, ask some questions.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Chair. And I'm so sorry I was extremely late. I was on a college tour that just piqued my interest, so I kept asking questions, and then I looked at the time, and I was really late. But I wanted to stop in and just say how important this conversation is, because we do live in a capitalist culture that there's a lot of exploitation in work, and seeing that Black and brown workers and Mexican-born workers are more likely to die from heat, it just shows you how unequal our culture can be, and how some lives are valued at more levels, than they should, or some work and labor is undervalued and some people are undervalued in our culture. And for me, as a counselor, where there's a lot of development going on in my district, there's a lot of Article 80 process, there's a lot of people building our built, society and world outdoors. This couldn't be more important to me, and as someone who cares about labor. And my dad, actually, when I was a kid, was a landscaper. So he worked outside really long hours, and I remember him coming home, burnt, sunstroke, totally dehydrated. And he did whatever he could to put food on the table for us. And a lot of those jobs were outdoors. So knowing how much this matters to me personally, as someone who has watched someone labor in the heat, and I know how much this matters to our city, of how can we build up and scale workforces and make sure that we're in a time where the heat, where the world is getting hotter and Boston is getting hotter. We've had a really hot summer, and I think I've bought a lot of water recently for neighbors and people in the community and seniors who just, I don't love the environmental impact of buying bottled water, but I've been buying a lot of bottled water recently for people in our communities, because oftentimes they don't think of the impact that the heat is having on them when they're outside. So I just want to thank you for your work. I want to thank you for your advocacy. I'm really grateful to labor for all that they do to put these workplace protections and to set standards. But we need new standards. And I just wanted to mention something that happened with a constituent that's germane but not extremely related. I found out that during the last heat emergency, a constituent's water was being shut off that day and was planned, and they continued to shut off their water during a heat emergency for planned work. That to me is something that that neighbor did not expect. They saw the heat emergency and still their water was cut off. So thinking about particularly our seniors too in their homes and how we can advocate for them and make sure when there is a heat wave that folks are not being, we were directed to cooling centers, which is great, but their house was cool, they just didn't have any water. So I think we need to figure out that. And I'm just curious if anyone on the panel has any feedback on that particular, instance.
Well, I've never had my water turned off during a heating emergency, and definitely living in Boston, I definitely appreciate when my kids appreciate when you guys leave the pools open longer and those things. I'll definitely say good job, Mayor. Yeah. But to know that somebody having their water turned off during a heat emergency, that was bad planning on water and sewer. I assume it was water and sewer turning it off. So that's kind of disrespectful. That's kind of awful in all kinds of ways. And if theirs is getting turned off, I'm assuming the whole neighborhood was getting turned off. So it's not like they could have ran to another neighbor's house. So that's tough. That's real tough. Yeah, and the particular work and the work permit I didn't end up getting. So I guess I'll look into the details of that and make sure. But I just that planning and thinking about particularly our most vulnerable citizens who may be housebound all the time. I think we have a lot of members of our communities who we're encouraging to age in place, but then aren't providing the basic needs and necessities to do that. And one of them is making sure that any planned, water cutoff is done during times when it's appropriate. So I just want to thank you all for your work. I think I also want to thank Chair Weber. Thank you so much, and Councilor Pepen. Thank you so much for your work and thinking about this. I feel like we still have so much more work to do to make sure all of our work sites are places where when people come home, they're not in the situation my dad was in, where they're extremely dehydrated, overworked, and almost at the point of heat stroke. I've
having seen that, and I know that we have people that are working really hard on our work sites, and they deserve the dignity of all of their needs being taken care of. So thank you so much for your focus on this.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Durkin. I just have a couple questions, and then you're free to go. So I guess to your comment, Mr. Rabin, the reason why I went into workers' rights laws, I had a professor at the University of Iowa Law School named Mark Linder, and he wrote a couple books on the right to go to the bathroom in the workplace. He teamed up with his urologist to show how much harm we were doing to workers by not allowing them access to bathrooms, and it just, that wasn't his sole focus, but that kind of advocacy, just realizing how inhumane we can be toward our workforce is just, it's astonishing. And this issue, you mentioned access to water and shade, it's just a human courtesy, but the fact that workers would be denied. So I join you in kind of being outraged that we're having to have this conversation, but I don't know if you had any follow-up on that.
Yeah, I actually related to the cases you just mentioned. OSHA's regulations from day one said that there have to be bathrooms and running water and water for people to drink. But it didn't explicitly say that employers had to let their employees go to the bathroom and get water. So there was a complaint and so forth, and so OSHA ended up having to write an interpretation of their rule saying, oh, by the way, since we make that a requirement to have those facilities, obviously the employer has to let people use them. So yeah, so that it is a problem that there are far too many employers, mostly non-union, that need to be required to be shown the door, be shown exactly what they need to do to treat their workers humanely, including water, shade, rest. It's so obvious.
Yeah, I think that's why my professor, Professor Linder, wrote two books. One was there's no connection, no requirement that they be allowed to use the bathrooms that they're required to have. And then the second book was now they're not enforcing the letter of interpretation, and people are still not being allowed to use. So use the bathroom. It's something that we, if we have a rule like this, we need to make sure that we, enforce it, because we want people to benefit.
Far too many of the workers that we see don't know that they have these rights, and if they know that they have the rights, they're afraid of retaliation, either being fired or being deported. So it's having it in writing and having it enforced is absolutely crucial.
And I guess my next is Frank and Michelle, just in terms of, you've obviously, you have strong backing from the union. You're able to actually negotiate in the CBA expressly, what kinds of water breaks are provided, whether there's ice provided, shade. But in terms of like a, building construction site, how dangerous would it be if there was those things were not being provided for a group of workers?
Extremely.
Yeah, I mean, do you mind if I
Yo, please go for it.
All right, excuse me. So as iron workers, I mean, we're going up, right, all the time. We're always chasing the skyline. We're on the top of the building. The shade is very minimal where we work. So even the shade itself, we talk about having that as an option. It's sometimes not an option, depending on where the sun is and the clouds line up. If you're willing to play a lottery ticket, you might get some. But I do feel that if we didn't have water on the job site, we'd have a lot of, I guess I don't want to go too morbid, but it would be very dangerous, to say the least. And again, there was also reflective heat. We throw steel decking out, so it's silver decking. It bounces right off the sun bounces right off the decking, and the guys are literally 5-6 feet away from it, throwing it out, and that stuff gets so hot to the point where it's hot to touch. The iron gets scorching hot as well when you're sitting down and making those connections up, whether you're bolting up or helping erect the building as it continues. So, and all workers for that matter, the laborers, the carpenters, the mechanical trades are a little bit below, so they are certainly experiencing heat. And then obviously once the building is enclosed, there still becomes, there's not too much airflow. So those enclosed buildings, or those enclosed floors, I should say, sometimes just get real sticky and musky, and they turn into like a hotbed for heat as well. So they might not be experiencing it from the sun directly, but just that dry, or that muggy heat sticks in there for those mechanical trades when you're in the elevator pits and stuff like that. So yeah, if there wasn't water, and again, like the union enforcing it or promoting it, and the contractors, like Sister said, having the responsible contractors saying, hey, we got water, or it's down there, it's in the shack, or make the apprentice take a round and give the waters to the men and women working, I think it would be very dangerous. So for all the unrepresented workers in the workplace, the guys that I think about, we talked about the roofers and the men and women that do residential construction throughout the city, or if they're in different areas out in the suburbs or wherever, they're feeling the effects if there's not water on the site. And sometimes you even get you didn't bring your own, it's like, no, it should be supplied, there should be a 24-pack of water in the truck or something of that nature. So I do hope that some of this conversation is leaning towards even the unrepresented worker, because on the union side, we have a backbone in this fight, and if you guys, like I said earlier, please lean on the unions, because it seems like we're ahead of the curve on this.
Yeah, I was thinking of like a roofer on a small project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The residential roofer.
Yeah, because I've actually done blocking on commercial buildings, and like he said, the reflection heat is, I think, 10 times worse than just the regular heat. I remember coming off of a job on the first day and having raccoon eyes from having my safety glasses on, but just cooked from that day. But hydrated and everything, but the sun is the sun. It's going to do what it's going to do. Yeah. My only thing is that our comrades in this whole thing is OSHA, and I don't know if having the safety or the OSHA, the people that come onto job sites and check on things, I don't know if it's something that needs to now be a standard for them to start talking to workers and saying, are you getting water? Are you being hydrated? Are you getting breaks? Are you getting a bathroom break? Like those things needs to probably be said when you're planning to put some kind of ordinance or something that's implemented to help push the standard for the non-represented workers on top of the union workers. Who knows? They might be somebody slipping through. But at the end of the day, I know for us, not just on the job, I'm pretty sure the iron workers do the same. Our apprentices, they start off with a safety slam when they first start. Mm-hmm. And a safety slam is not just caring about their fall protection and everything. It's talking about worrying about your surroundings, worrying about your health, worrying about what you're putting in your body. So that being said, I feel that maybe that needs to be implemented with the non-represented workers, that maybe they need to have pop-up visits circulated and saying, hey, let's talk to the workers. I want to know if they're being hydrated. And you could actually look at them and see it. So.
Okay, Mr. Zatri, I mean, we have here a representative from OSHA. They're the federal agency making sure our workers are being protected. And I mean, what would you say to someone, about the conditions at the airport? Do you think if they haven't been there already, should they come down and see what you guys are going through. Yeah.
If someone is show up, it's better because he's gonna find because we don't know the law for the OSHA. If somebody else is gonna come, that's gonna see what is all the problem that came up. It's like we know the OSHA. For me, I know OSHA. She is in charge for all any environment for the worker, whatever, construction, office, anything. But for the airport, it's different because the problem for airport, people working outside and the ramp. How are we gonna provide them in the water? You're not gonna make a fountain in the ramp for people to be swimming or to drink water. Because I think I hear everybody from OSHA when he was talking, no one finds solution. You know what I mean? No one finds solution when we talk. You get some question about the water, sometimes we step back, sometimes we... The issue for OSHA, she gotta find out the way. She gonna make her law. Whatever she gonna do with like workforce, when you go to work, you need to know. You need to know all your right, human right. That's what it's gonna be the process for OSHA to follow. Anything under OSHA is a law, and you can make whatever justice, whatever he's gonna do with this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zatri. I don't, does anybody have any follow-up questions? I don't think so. Thank you again for you, sitting through the first panel, which was very long, and sticking around and speaking to us. It's great to hear from you. And I know there's something I'm supposed to say at the end of these things, but
well, thanks for having us.
I appreciate it. I don't know. I guess that's the end of this hearing. You know, I look forward to taking up this issue with my colleagues, and you know, making sure that you know, your union members, that people working here, whether they have a union or not, can get, you know, just very basic needs met, water, shade, and rest, and that we, you know, protect people from climate change here in Boston. So again, thank you to my colleagues for being here, and that's the end of this hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.